Ladies and gentlemen, here is Thomas Lohner.
Niklas, thank you so much for this introduction. I'm really glad to be here and to see that there's a... Oh, sorry, is it me? The other ones? Okay. And to see that there's an e-commerce conference with English-speaking people, so I'm really, really glad to be on stage here. So let's get started. My name is Thomas, and my job is to post these charts on Facebook. So what I'm here to talk about is not these charts on Facebook, but how do we get there to be able to post them? And basically the motivation for this talk is emails like this. Oh, you want to take a picture? Sorry, guys. The motivation for my talk are emails like this. So basically, this is a customer of ours, and he wrote me an email not too long ago. It's maybe like 4 weeks ago. And basically telling me that the shop is very slow and if I would have an idea why. And also there's a screenshot of whatever monitoring tool. I have no idea. So any one of you know what the problem is with emails like this? So I don't know which performance. I have no idea what this tool is. I don't know if they mean performance like the home page or the search or the product page, the category page. Also, I don't know if they mean performance like on mobile devices or desktop devices or whatever. So no fucking clue, oh sorry, no idea what they mean by, no beep, what they mean by performance. So let's start with the question, what's performance anyways? Is it like adding more horsepower to the project? Or is it like being lightweight and fast? And if so, what exactly is fast? So if we measure the speed of an online shop, basically there's two things we have to measure. First, the time it takes Shopware to do all the database magic to get the products in order and to basically start displaying the page. This is what we call time to first byte. This is very, very critical because this is exactly the time the browser window stays empty. You don't see anything because the backend is still working. Shopware is working to get the result to you. And then when time to first byte is over, then the rendering process in the browser starts, which means that the browser displays the HTML and then loads like all the product images, or the JavaScript, stuff like that. And I want to start with the second part, with the page load time in a browser. Usually when I do talks like this, I really like to ask the audience what you guys think what would be fast. So would be 1 second fast or maybe 10 seconds. And usually when I do so, one of you will just shout a number into the room. And this doesn't work out quite well because maybe the other guys, so you as a group, you don't learn anything from one guy shouting a number because you don't know who is this, you don't know what's up with this number. So starting from now on, I want to use another approach. And this is the second time I'm doing this. I started this on e-commerce code talks a few weeks ago in Berlin. And instead of asking the people what is fast, I was doing the other approach, which was I just took a look at all of the shops from all of the speakers that were on stage on this conference, and I measured their performance. So for this, we could compare to real shops from people who are on stage telling you what to do, right? I wanted to do the same here, but the problem here is that there are not enough shops on stage here, which is a problem. And Niklas, we have to fix this. Because honestly, I would love one of you to see here on stage next year and maybe tell all the others what you did to improve the performance of your shop. And if you don't feel like being on stage showing people, then maybe we can do it together. So if you don't want to do it alone, just talk to me and we can do a talk together next year to just have more shops on stage. So basically what I had to do was to settle with the same shops I analyzed for code talks. And basically what you see here is the browser rendering time, meaning browser starts to display stuff until everything is finished. And what you can see here is that the most boring shop of all, Otto.de, was the fastest one by far, so loading in 2.3 seconds. And the second thing you see here is that there are lots of shops which are not so fast. So basically, there's only a second one which is below 5 seconds if we maybe count Shopping 24 in. And all the others are way above 5 seconds and even more like you can see here. So I was asking myself, how come that a boring shop can be super fast and that the shops which are hyped the most currently are super slow? How does it come to this? And we will see this in a minute. So the second thing is application load time, time to first byte, as we call it. This is basically the technical part of the backend doing stuff. And I have chosen some other shops here because there's a very, very important point I want to make with this slide. And this is that if you listen to some people out there in the world, they try to tell us that in terms of shopping software, currently there's a new world and an old world. And regarding to them, we all here belong to the old world, like Shopware, Magento, Oxid. This is the old world. And the new world would be like Spryker, About You Cloud, commerce tools, stuff like that. And what I really want to show here is that there's no fear for us to be in the old world because we can make the old world shops as fast as the new world shops, or even faster. Because my opinion really is that the performance of your online shop does not come from which software you choose, but how you use it and how many features you put in there. I was testing this by downloading demo shops from Shopware, Magento, PrestaShop, blah, blah, blah. And what I found out is that the demo shop installation, they are all just the same in terms of site speed. So we start with, I don't know, maybe 300 milliseconds or stuff like that, and then we start adding features. And the more features we add, the slower the site gets. So the performance does not depend on which technology you use, but how you use it. The next thing I was looking at was, what's the difference between front-end performance and back-end performance? And this is very, very interesting, because what we see here is, or maybe the other way around, what I thought was that if a company cares about performance, then front-end and back-end both would be fast. So, for example, if Otto.de decided that performance is very important to them, then they would have a team to improve performance in the application and also in the template, in the browser rendering time. But this is not true, actually. So how come that there's this huge gap? So, for example, About You was the fastest shop of all in terms of time to first byte. It was like ridiculously fast, like 10 milliseconds or so. And then some genius added 30 JavaScripts to the template. So how come that the difference is so big and that some shops are very fast in the backend and very slow in the front end? And I think this is because time to first byte is a technical decision, how we implement the shop, how we implement Shopware, or how we implement Spryker, and how many features we put in there. And this decision is made by the tech guys, by us. And the front-end part, which is how the shop looks, this decision is made by the marketing guys. And usually, these two don't talk with each other. So I have one real-world example of what happens if marketing and time to first byte team doesn't work together. This is one of our customers, so I can show this. Basically, they came to us because they wanted to scale the shop, but they didn't have any problem with performance. The guy said, we don't need your help with performance because the shop is already ultra fast. And I was like, so time to first byte, like 50 milliseconds. But don't get me wrong, it looks kind of empty. So where's the shop? And it took like 3 or 4 seconds to load this, what's Einkaufswelten in English? The shopping what? The shopping worlds, thank you. So the problem here is that they try to do something very fast and then they fuck up. Because this is not a fast shop, this is an empty shop, and these are two different things, fast and empty. So the thing is, the more your front-end team and your back-end team, the more they work together and the more they talk, or the less they work together, the more they are separated, will be the key factor of if you end up with this, or if you end up with that. So now I want to show you some examples which I found in the shops you saw on the previous slide. So I analyzed all of them, and I tried to find the bottlenecks. And I will show these bottlenecks to you, and then we can discuss if you think it would be worth keeping them or throwing them out. Okay? So the first thing is, sorry, you didn't see that. So the first thing is custom fonts. Who of you is using fonts in the web shop? Nearly everyone. What's the problem with fonts? Yes? They have to be compatible to every browser. Yes, you're right, but this doesn't have any performance concern. So what's the problem performance-wise? Yeah? Sorry? Yes. They are blocking because they have to be loaded before rendering starts. If I want to render in a font, I have to load the font first, and this is blocking, which means in this time, nothing happens in the online shop. And honestly, what do you think? How many more orders per day or per month does your shop do because you have a custom font which no one else has? Who thinks you make more orders with this? You do? Okay. Who of you, for the record, one guy, who of you thinks that you would make more orders per month if the shop was 1 second faster? For the record, everyone else. This is exactly my point. So, don't get me wrong, this talk is not about not doing stuff. This talk is about making the decision what to keep and what to throw out. So basically, if you think you will, in whatever you sell, you will make more orders with this font, then keep it. But if you think it's not that important, then kill it. This is the main theory of my talk. So, next question is very, very important. What do you guys think is even worse than having a custom font in the shop? Any idea? having even more custom fonts in the shop. And it does not make things better if you load them from Google. Because here you will have an additional TCP connection, additional DNS lookup, and additional SSL handshake for a font. Are you kidding me? Please do not do that. The next thing, okay, I said this talk is not about what not to do, but don't do this, okay? So the next thing I found was having these widgets, which are generated by JavaScript on the page. For example, these trusted shops Bewertungen. And honestly, Facebook is not a perfect match in this list here, because Facebook actually does something, because it shows my friends of this page. But all the others will show exactly the same content regardless who of us visits this shop. So who of you has these JavaScript thingies for trusted shops or Criterio or ausgezeichnet? Okay. What do you think would be a very, very simple solution to still have this information in the shop, but to get rid of this JavaScript calls, which take up to 1.7 seconds? Any ideas what to do? Yes? Sorry? Yes, take an image. Basically what you do is you put the JavaScript on another page and maybe add like a cron job or something, and in the background have the cron job render this JavaScript, and the resulting image, you take a screenshot of that, and then you put this into your template. You use the image served from your server, from your domain, instead of JavaScript. But if you do so, you cannot tell them, because they will fucking hate when you do that. And why is that? Anyone an idea why they hate when you use images instead of JavaScript? Yes? Exactly. They don't see your traffic, because this is not done by JavaScript because it's the best technology to do that. This is done by JavaScript because these firms want to track your customers. They want to see how many customers you have, how many traffic you have, and maybe even if these customers buy something or not. So these are tracking pixels which don't tell you that they are tracking pixels. And this is very, very bad, not in terms of performance, but also in terms of something else we will get later to. So this is very dangerous, and my advice would be to throw them all out and to just use the resulting images. The next thing is, the more tracking, the better, or as we say in German, viel hilft viel. Honestly, I really like to use eConda. And if you choose to do so, then do so. But don't use eConda and Google Analytics. If you choose to use Google Analytics, it's totally fine for me, but don't use both of them. The more tracking you put in there will not make your shop faster. It will make your shop slower, and this is not a good idea. The next thing, and just as a reminder, all of these examples are real-world examples that I found on the shops I mentioned. And by the way, why was it so important for me to use the shops of the speakers of this conference, CoTalks? Because I am really sick of our customers to compare themselves to Amazon. Do not compare yourself to Amazon. Compare yourself to real-world shops like you saw on these slides, like Otto.de or Mr. Specs or Bergfreunde.de, whatever you sell. Compare yourself to them and not to Amazon. The next thing I found in this shop was A/B testing via JavaScript. And honestly, who of you does A/B testing? This is like maybe 5 guys out of 150 or so. I think A/B testing is very, very important, but please, 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 pretty please, do not use it via JavaScript. Because basically what this does is you have to spend the render time of both versions, but only one will be displayed for the customer. In terms of performance, this is very, very bad, and we should not do so. And they are all kinds of really good solutions. Google reCAPTCHA is, I like it very much. So the only problem is to only put it when you need this. So the example I found, and I think this is a typical story. For example, you as a developer get the feature request to include Google reCAPTCHA. So what do? You open up the documentation for Google reCAPTCHA and you read how to implement this, and they will say like, put this JavaScript into the header of your site. And then the developer will go ahead and will like, okay, our template has header, middle stuff, and footer. Let's put it into the header template. And this results in the Google reCAPTCHA being loaded where exactly? On every single page. But do you use this on every single page? Hopefully not. Maybe it would be funny to use it on the homepage. I don't know. But usually we don't. So we use this during checkout, right? So only load the JavaScript during checkout when you really need it. And the next thing is the most critical, because honestly, I want you guys to use Google Tag Manager. Because what's the beauty about Google Tag Manager? I'm a tech guy, like developer. For us, we have to include one JavaScript, and then our customers have this clicky bunty interface, and they can add as many other JavaScript as they want without needing to tell us. So we don't have to add everything, they can do it themselves. This is very, very good, right? No? Why not? This is good for us, but this is not good for the shop, because the advantage is marketing people can add stuff, and the disadvantage is marketing people will add stuff. I have never seen marketing people put JavaScripts away. They only put new ones in. So this talk, I don't want you to go home and to tell your bosses, good news, we have to get rid of Google Tag Manager because Thomas said we are not allowed to use it anymore. This is not my point. My point is I want you to make the decision if it's worth or not. And if it's not, then it has to go away. And if you really need it, then be aware what you pay for this feature. And you pay like 1 second load time. And by the way, this is when it's empty, right? I also don't want you to do this. Because obviously, the more you add, the worse it gets. So who of you has ever added a feature to a web shop? All of you. And who has killed a feature in a web shop? Not all of you. Next year I want all hands to be up, because this is very important. When I see legacy shops, I usually only see them growing. Not growing in terms of making more orders, but growing in terms of more features. I very, very rarely see shops which shrink in terms of features. And this is a new mindset that we have to adapt. And this is exactly the time where I have to do a personal disclaimer. And this would be like this. I didn't know how to translate this, so basically it says, do whatever you want, but live with it if it's shitty. I personally really believe that there is a balance between performance and features. If we add features, we have to pay with performance. This is like a physical law, right? What we see here. And my theory is that in the balance between features and performance also underlies a physical law, which is this here. Actually, there is a study, and this study says that people in an audience of a talk will rank this talk much higher if there's at least one slide with a kitten in it. And this is really good for me, because coincidentally, this is a perfect match for what I want to tell you. Because my theory is that features in a shop are like pets. The longer they live with us, the more we love them. And the less we can imagine to not be around them anymore. And if they get sick, we take them to the doctor. And no matter the cost, we fix them. Instead of maybe thinking about if we don't need them anymore, put them down. No, we wouldn't do that. This feature is so cute. We cannot put it down. I love it so much. Instead of putting it down, let's add a second feature. Maybe it will also be cute and I will also love it. So the thing is, going back a few slides, if marketing people decide about putting stuff into the shop and this has an impact on the performance, how can we convince marketing people to kill features in the shop? Now you look at me like I will present the answer. But the thing is, I'm a tech guy. I have no fucking idea how to convince marketing people. No way. But what I understand is that there are two things in the world that overrule marketing. First is losing money. So if I tell someone, you will make more money if you get rid of this feature, then they won't believe me and they will add another feature. But if I would be able to prove how much money could you make if the shop was 1 second faster, then this mathematics would overrule marketing. And let's do that. The next 3 slides are stolen from another talk by Project A, Philipp Werner. This talk is on YouTube, and I will link to the video. And Niklas, you have to tell me how we can spread it for the people. And I really encourage you to watch this talk because this is mind-blowing amazing. What they did is they found a method how to simulate how much more money would you make if your shop was 1 second faster. And I will give you just a hint of how they did that, and I really encourage you to watch this talk. Basically what they did was they measured the page load time, but not like we did before in a lab environment. They measured this for every single customer, for every single page impressions. And then they sliced up the load time. So for example, one slice would be between 1 second and 1.1 seconds. Next slice would be 1.1 seconds to 1.2 seconds. Next one, 1.2 seconds to 1.3 seconds. And then they were counting how many people fit in each of these slices. So far, so good? So what you get is like this. The slice of roughly 2 seconds, we have 1,400 people in there. And what they did next was that they calculated the conversion rate for each of these slices. And this looks like that. So you know what the conversion rate for each slice of page load time is. And they did this for 2 of their shops, just to be sure that this is no bullshit and that this really works. And what you now can do is you can shift the x-axis by putting people from one slice into another. And then you can calculate how much more orders you would have done if you use the conversion rate of the slice where you put the people in. And this looks like that. And there are 2 very important things about this here. First of all, how much more money would I make? Second, from which page load time on there is no more effect on the conversion rate. So imagine you would know how fast your shop has to be to have the peak conversion rate. And making the shop even faster than this is a waste of time and money because the conversion rate will not get better. Or the other way around, this will tell you if you can use a custom font or not. If you can afford so, because you don't need to make the page faster, then you can leave the font in and be happy with it. And if not, then you have to throw it out, okay? By the way, I said there's 2 things in the world that can overrule marketing. One thing is losing money. And what's the second thing is what I call legal security. I don't know if it's translated correct. In German, it would be Rechtssicherheit. Legal security overrules marketing. And we have the perfect opportunity to use this. Because by the end of this month, the General Data Protect regulation will take effect. So this is the perfect opportunity for us tech guys to get rid of all these tracking JavaScripts, because it's not a good idea to have them when this regulation gets in. So this is really perfect to get rid of the stuff. So now you ask me, what should I aim for? What's the numbers that are good for me? And there's a database in the internet which basically scans the top 1 million domains of the internet and then calculates averages of that. And the averages of all of them in terms of, for example, JavaScript. So this means on desktop, the average is 20 JavaScript requests per page. And the average for mobile is also 20 JavaScripts per page. If you end up with these numbers, then you will be mediocre. If you want to be better than the rest, then these numbers are already too high and you have to stay below them. This is JavaScript. This is CSS requests. This is HTML requests, which basically is AJAX calls, like the shopping Welten in Shopware. This is image requests. As you can see here on mobile, we have fewer image requests, which is good. And this is my favorite one. And if anyone tells me that they are not happy with the mobile performance of their shop, and I see that they are loading 4 different custom fonts, then I swear to you I will not help them. The database is http://archive.com. You should check this out. This is really, really cool stuff because I think this is backed by Google. And all the data they have, you can query it by Google BigQuery. So basically, you can do like how many websites have more than 30 JavaScripts and still load in less than 5 seconds. I can tell you that the answer is going to be 0, but maybe you anyways want to do the query. The thing here is that you can do custom queries. So now I want to show you the tools that you need to be able to compare your shop to all of the shops I showed you on the previous slides. First of all, and these most of them are open source. So you should use Zabbix for server monitoring in terms of how many CPU cores do I need, are the servers big enough or too small, whatever stuff. Next thing is web page test. This is what I used to measure the performance. Basically, what web page test does is firing up a browser, loading the page, and then counting all the objects and doing some metrics on them. This is very important. Tideways is for PHP and backend profiling, and ScaleCommerce anyways. So I think I broke this thingy. What's the conclusion? So if I could wish for only one single thought that you guys take away from this talk, then it would be this one. Or if this is too brutal for you, then maybe this one. I hope that I can get you guys to think about what you use in your online shops and what features you really need. I also hope that you learn something from this talk. But what I really hope the most is that you have fun on this awesome conference here. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Thomas. Actually, quite interesting. I saw this talk at Berlin, but it still evolves a little bit every time. That's nice. Before we get to the question and answer, since you're all here, everyone who has a ticket to the after-show party and does not have this wristband you see here on my arm, please, after this talk, get one at the help desk. Otherwise, you won't get in. Oh, you? Okay, I see. Well, okay, question and answer, you know how this works. If you have a question, you raise your hand, I come to you, and you will speak into the microphone while I'm holding it, and then Thomas will answer your question. But I have a question to start with.
Okay.
And imagine I have a web shop, I don't, and I want to make a performance analysis and make my web shop better, faster, you know. Mm-hmm. What is it? Is it like half a year of development time, or what do I need to calculate?
You mean how complicated is it to make the shop faster?
Exactly.
Okay, so let me explain by how we did it in the past, and then you will see what the thing is. So in the past, people could ask us to do a performance analysis of the shop. Basically, we would take like a day or so and analyze everything, and then the result would be like a piece of paper with, for example, 10 things that have to change. So 10 tips that your developers need to do in order to make the shop faster. And then our job was done. And like 12 weeks later, same customer would ask me like, Thomas, the thing is I'm very sad because I've paid so much money and the shop is not faster at all. And then I was like, okay, so how many of these 10 things did you do already? Maybe that's the problem, that you did it in the wrong order. And they were like, none. Because doing this does not fit in our daily work. neither our daily work nor the daily work of the agencies, because I pay them to do features and not something from some piece of paper. So we don't do that anymore. What we do now is that we do workshops, which are 2 days, together with the development team. And then in this workshop, the result will be the same piece of paper with 10 things, but the first 6 of these will already be done in your shop. So when 2 days are over, maybe half of the low-hanging fruits, as we call them, are already implemented, and the other half you have to tell your developers to do. And this works very, very well. So my experience is, to answer your question, like if you really focus on it for 2 days, you will have low-hanging fruits that will make the shop much faster, because it only takes a minute to kick out shopware.wav.
Correctly. Okay, anyone else has a question? Oh, there in the back. Of course, in the back. Always those long, long walks. Why not? Actually, I'm paid for that, okay.
So we're using a little chat window where a customer can chat with us, and in the past, like it took very long to load.
Yes.
And then the developer, I think they loaded them like later, once the web page was already loaded.
Yes.
Does that help, or is there any other recommendation?
Let me direct this question in a slightly different way to the audience here. By the show of hands, who of you uses these popping up chat windows on web pages? 4 people. Who of you is really annoyed about these fucking things and clicks them away? Everyone else. So this is the answer to your question.
Okay, controversial. Anyone else a question that Thomas can shoot down? Yes, here. Okay. Right.
Yeah, I have a question regarding like the Trusted Shops logo.
Yes.
Are you allowed contractually to do that, what you just told us? Or because they don't want you to do it, and they will tell you, yeah, just use ours because you must not alter with our graphics.
Okay. So before I answer this question, I have a question myself, Niklas. This talk will be like, there will be a video, right? Will this video include these questions or not? And if so, can we arrange to beep at some points?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But maybe this is a question you want to ask afterwards again.
No, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the problem is, obviously, you are not allowed to do that, but I don't care. I still do it. I don't care, I still do it. What you should not do is alter the image. And also, these images like Trusted Shop rating can change over time. So you will not be allowed to show an old version, which is good for you, if the current one would be not so good for you. That's why I said that my solution would be to have like a cron job, which generates this image every minute. So the worst that you can have is that this image will be 1 minute old. And I think this is a perfectly fine solution.
Okay, to summarize this, don't do that. Don't do it. Yeah, this is, I'm not sure if I can do it with my microphone because it starts beeping. Maybe you can lower the volume a little bit and I will take the other way around. Wait a moment.
A lot of third-party widgets do asynchronous widget loading.
Yes.
Does that make it better, or is it to avoid nonetheless?
It makes it better if you implement them in a way that the customer already sees stuff on the page. Then it's perfectly fine. So one example would be for a tracking pixel, if you can put it in the bottom of the page instead of in the head. So all of the tracking companies will tell you, no, don't do that, you have to put it up there. I have the opinion that you can do it down there. Because what will be the difference? The difference will be you could measure how many people did not buy anything because the tracking pixel took too long to load. So if you put it in the footer of the page, perfectly fine.
Okay. Same question here, different question there. I'll hand you the microphone.
But if I drop it? Oh yeah, you told us. Okay, so my other question is like, you showed us like there's so many image loading requests, but I mean it's all for the first page loading, but some images, I don't know, in the header or something, they will be cached next time, and some scripts will be cached.
Yes.
So what about that? Like, I don't know.
So the question was if this would hurt performance. Obviously, it does not if the same image does not get loaded a second time. So every element that you have on every page will not hurt the performance as all the elements that are only on this page. Does this answer your question?
Okay, there is a question. Nice, yeah.
I have a question regarding images.
Yes.
What tool do you recommend?
You
Compress.
mean for compressing images?
Yes.
Honestly, the most convenient way is to use something like Cloudflare, which is also for DDoS protection. And basically what they do is they have this sort of load balancer which is in front of your shop, and they can compress images on the fly and cache them in their CDN. So you don't have to do anything. You just have to enable Cloudflare, and they have also like a free account, I guess.
Shopware compresses images as well on upload when you have the tools installed. Okay, there was another
Should
question.
have known that. I'm so sorry, Niklas.
I've got two questions. The first is, what about the functionality of the Trusted Shops widget? And the second is, because the request, what about HTTP2?
So the first was about the functionality of the Trusted Shops request. What do you mean by functionality? Like that there is this rating or something else?
Something else. You can expand it and you can view reviews directly in this widget.
Yeah, I would recommend to also cache that. And honestly, maybe it's a good idea to put on some monitoring and some tracking and to count how many of your customers actually click there. Because my guess would be that no one clicks there. Okay, sorry, and the second question was?
HTTP2 reduces the requests by itself. So
Oh, okay, so HTTP2 reduces the number of, not the number of requests, but the number of connections to the web server. So you can put more objects and more requests into a single connection. This is true, but this is not true for these examples because the Trusted Shop widget will be loaded from the Trusted Shop server anyways. So regardless of HTTP 1.1 or HTTP 2, you still have to load it from there. So it will not make it faster, no.
Okay, we have to make a cut here, sadly, because we are running out of time and there's already the next speaker. Remember, those with an after-show ticket, get your wristbands, Thomas. And the next talk is in, wait a moment.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Thomas.